Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you're happy watching. This is GotY Tokyo coming at you with a little bit of a special empty room service for you all, seeing as it's the beginning of the year, and I thought it might be fun to take a look at all the games we played together in community in 2024 and to slot them into one of those fun little tier lists that were all the rage with the hip young kids a couple of years back. We're going to be taking a look at Dark Cloud 2, Skul the Hero Slayer, Little Nightmares 2, Metal Gear Solid 1, Unsighted, Metal Gear Solid 2, Tunic, and Metal Gear Solid 3, and seeing which one of those was the worst of the worst and which one of those was the best of the best, and all the ones that are in between. Now, a couple of things to get out of the way before we get really going here, and one, there is a certain amount of subjectivity in my breakdowns of these games. They are going to be quite affected by the experience of playing them in community, and some games are very much elevated by playing in community, and some games very much are not. But I will be keeping that in mind, and I will be keeping that forward for you when I'm doing the breakdowns of the games. Two, spoilers are going to be unavoidable when talking about these games and my feelings about these games. If there are any games in that list that you would like to play fresh and unspoiled, by all means, please check the video description below. There will be timestamps. You can skip ahead to whichever games that you would like to watch. Now, that will have the side effect of spoiling the breakdowns and tier list of the video, but hey, you can't win every fight. 3, although we are presenting this in the wonderful world of Little Big Planet, this is not a Little Big Planet video, this is an empty room video, and I see no need to moderate my language to keep it safe for work, so just to get it out of the way, shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, probably shouldn't get any worse than that, but who's to say, because sometimes my mouth just kind of runs, but at least now you know what you'll be getting into. So I think that pretty much does it for here in the intro. Why don't we follow on along to Disappointment Alley. Alright, so here we are in Disappointment Alley, and first up on the block, we've got Skul the Hero Slayer. Developed by Southpaw Games and published by NeoWiz with an October 2021 PlayStation 4 release, and Skul's major failing really is my own lack of due diligence. I picked it up off the back of a price tag of free and some screenshots, and figured we'd be getting a standard progression, side-scrolling, hack-and-slash platformer with maybe some light puzzle elements, something like a Castlevania. But instead, what we got was a hack-and-slash platformer roguelike, like Dead Cells, and frankly, friends, neighbors, fiends, fronds, I got roguelikes coming out of my ears and my asshole. Skul was going to have to be doing something pretty special to stand out in that crowd, and frankly, it just doesn't. It's got a nice pixel art fantasy palette, I've got to give it that, but then you've got Enter the Gungeon, which is doing the same beat with a lot more readability and a lot more charm. You've got Dead Cells, which is pulling off the same tricks far more beautifully, and both of those games have a much more enjoyable moment-to-moment gameplay than Skul really manages. It's got this stingy, give away the story as you progress through the biome setup like you've gotten Going Under or in Hades, but Going Under is leveraging that to tell what is a relatively novel story for the genre of like tech startup culture, and Hades is, at the end of the day, Hades is Hades. It's even among like the field of mid-tier roguelikes like a Neon Abyss, it's not really putting much special sauce on its nothing burger, and it even fails at being dogshit bad enough to be a good hate stream like Death State. Skul just kind of exists, and for that it is bound for the Lake of Fire. Now, coming up next, we've got Dark Cloud 2 from Level 5 and published by Sony Computer Entertainment with a North American PlayStation 2 release of February 2003. And Dark Cloud 2's big issue is it's just, I don't know if a game like this really fits with my streaming style, and I'm not even sure if it fits with my life anymore. And it's really a shame because there's so much cool stuff in it to recommend. The story is, and I mean this in the highest of praise, absolute peak 90s anime bullshit. I loved every minute of it. ages beautifully as far as presentation. The art style is great. The character design is fantastic. I really like the diorama system that puts in an interesting little spin on kind of your town hub setups that you would find in role-playing games where you're building it yourself. I thought that was really neat. It's got the best video game translation of golf that I've ever played. I hate golf in real life. I hate golf in video games for the most part. But Spina is a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. But then you get down into the actual, like, game quad game, the running around and batting things over the head with your comically oversized wrench, and there's just so much of it. Every chapter, the number of dungeon maps that you've got to clear to get to the end, they just increase what feels like exponentially. They all get bigger. You spend so much time away from all the cool stuff just slogging through these dungeons, and I got to the point where I was just kind of rushing along, just trying to keep a little bit of momentum in the story and the stream. And of course what happens is, finally, after 3 freaking months, we get to the final palace, and after another couple of weeks we get to the saddest, wettest, poor little meow meow ever, Emperor Griffin, who I absolutely love, and he kicks our ass because we haven't been grinding the way that a 2003 RPG expects you to be grinding. So we go out, we grind some more, we come back into the fight. It takes like another session or two, and we squeak out the victory. It's a really hard fight. It's an enjoyable fight. It's pretty tense, but we made it. We managed the victory. Get to the end of the fight, and I'm like, you know what? This is maybe not really the game for me anymore, but I'm glad that I got to share this with the community. We got a nice narratively fulfilling wrap on this story, and we can finally put it to bed. But what's this? Out from left field with a steel fucking chair? It's Dark Element Cloud Chapter. I don't fucking know what his name is anymore. I can't remember it off the top of my head, because of course this is an early 2000s JRPG, and you can't finish the story without beating the god of all evil in the fucking world. So instead of getting that narratively fulfilling conclusion, we got this other asshole that we gotta beat. Except, excuse me, hold on a second, wait a minute. We can't go fight him immediately. Oh no, of course not. There's a fucking boss rush that you gotta go through. 6 tiers, I think, of bosses, and they kick our ass. So we gotta go out. It's the end of the game, the last bits, and we gotta go out and grind some more to get our weapon up to get through this fucking boss rush. So we did it. We grind, we do another session, we get through this boss rush, and we get to the Dark Element, and he absolutely just beats the shit out of us. There is not a moment of hope in that fight. Killed us to death, and I realized with despair that we were going to have to take at least another 2, maybe 3 sessions. Now, we've been playing this for 26 sessions, that's 4 months. We're going to have to do another 3 right at the end of the game just to get our weapons to the point where we might have a hope in this fight. And I said, you know what? It's enough. Dark Cloud 2, you broke my fucking heart. But you know what? Enough of this disappointment alley. Let's go to the Orange Rapids of really kind of okay. Alright, so here we are in the rapids of really quite okay. Let's get these TVs up here. Hello, TVs. There you are. We're first going to be taking a look at... Now, hold on a second. That's not right. We're going to be taking a look at Metal Gear Solid, the OG, developed and published by Konami and headed by everyone's favorite Arctic Clown enjoyer, Hideo Kojima, with the North American PS1 release date of October 1998. And honestly, I feel like I appreciate Metal Gear Solid a lot more than I enjoyed playing it. There's a lot of it that's really fun. I loved most of the characters. We get our first brush with Revolver Ocelot and his incredible ineptitude at being able to torture anybody. Vulcan Raven's character design is really neat. I do wish that he weren't a Native American shaman, but like his character design is really neat. I love Mantis as well. Has got a great design and a pretty fun fight, an interesting fight at the very least. So those parts are good. The story as well, like, it definitely has a fair amount of warts in the writing. Mei Ling doesn't age particularly well, but as far as examples of 90s media that have aged terribly, it's not even in the top 10 of that list. It's a fun little, geopolitical soap opera, and I had a good time with the twins and the clones and all of that. It was great. The issues that I had with the game were very much on the mechanical side, the game of it, and it's mainly just because I've gotten used to more modern styles of play, and it's not, aged particularly great. I felt awkward the entire time that I was playing. I never quite felt like I had a good grasp on like how to do stealth or how to do combat well, which is a pretty big problem when it's a stealth and combat game. Aiming was always an issue. We'd see particularly in the motorcycle chase, the Jeep and motorcycle chase at the very end, where I just ate shit constantly because I could not fucking hit anything. Bosses seem to be pretty poorly balanced as far as the damage that you do to them versus the damage they do to you. We ended up doing the ninja fight and the madness fight just many times over and over again because I just kept on eating shit. It sucked. The worst of that, though, was with anything involving melee combat, because it was just very difficult to figure out where my hurt box was, where the enemy's hitbox was, what the timing was to keep out of the way of their hits. And that's an issue because the last fight against Liquid Snake is pure melee with the timer, with Snake Liquid bitching at you the entire fucking time. It is absolutely miserable. We ended up going an hour over our regular stream time just to finish the fucking fight because I wanted it done. I was just about ready to set it down and say fuck it. That's another game that we failed. We did eventually beat him, but it was so miserable that I actually don't want to come back and play Metal Gear, which is a shame because there's a lot of the rest of it that I did kind of enjoy. But yeah, yikes. But I think that pretty much does it for us here at the Orange Really Okay Rapids, and we're going to be taking a look at the high-tech heights of Yellow Great Games. Alright, so here we are in the high-tech wonders of really good games, and first off, we're going to be taking a look at, so we're going to get the TV up here, we're going to be taking a look at Metal Gear Solid 2, dev'd and pubbed by Konami, and published in North America in November of 2001, headed once again by everyone's favorite long walker, Hideo Kojima, and I feel like mechanically it improved on a lot of the issues that I had in Metal Gear Solid 1. I never quite felt as much like I was struggling against the systems as I did there, although I did still have a little bit of trouble, and most of that was on me not paying attention. I didn't even notice till halfway through the game you could shake down the guards and get extra ammo, so we ran through most of it without any gun. That was kind of a problem. I loved the villains once again in the series here. Batman is a whole lot of fun with his wine glass and sippy straw, and he's rolling around on the rollerblades. He's great. Vamp is super fun. We didn't get to see the bisexual codec, but that was on me because I didn't use the codec as much as I wanted to. I really loved Fortune, although I did feel like she got shafted a little bit the way they set her up, as though, oh yeah, she can control fate, and then they pull out the rug and it's like, oh no, girl, those were just nanomachines. So they're all cool. Revolver Ocelot's back again, and he still fails at torturing people, so that's always really great. Really love that. Those aspects of it, Big Shell as well. I thought the environment was super cool. I love the bits where you could be outside in the daytime. It feels a little bit rare for this type of game, especially for Metal Gear Solid 1, so that was really excellent. All of those bits I really enjoyed an awful lot. I love the fact that we got to kill the President of the United States because, honestly, fuck America. Any game where you get to kill the President is almost immediately going to be a good game to me, so that part was great. The bits that kind of pull it down a little bit, one, the pacing feels really off for how the story is revealed. Kojima does tend to use a lot of cutscenes and a lot of long cutscenes, but they're really egregious in this one, and they just kind of slow things down in the second half to a crawl. The other issue that I had was it's really weird about Raiden, and I understand that is kind of part of the point that they're negging on this kid, and it makes his choosing to go his own way at the end of the game have a little bit more oomph and impact, but God, it gets really heavy at the end. The whole thing with Rose and their relationship is super gross. Also, thinking about relationships, Hal and his mom, that was something to be thrown in this game, and I'm glad that I knew it was coming so I could put up a content warning for the community, but like, yeah, maybe don't put CSA in your game, in your action spy thriller. That's a little bit of a lot, so yeah. But going over to our next game, and we've got... Wait a minute, that's not right. Hold up a sec. Going over to our next game, and we've got... Ib! And I loved Ib. Ib was such a cool game. It was such a great experience playing it with the community. There was like a lot of really good energy there with folks. Details, this was developed and pubbed by GotY as a one-person team. The remake was pubbed by Playism, had an OG release of February 2012 and a PS4 release of March 2024. And I'm so glad that Kronos brought this to my attention and really pushed me to play it because I had a wonderful time with it. I loved the environment of the art museum. I loved all the different art styles in there. The puzzles were not too tricky. There were things that I could generally figure out on my own with every now and then a few hints from the crew in the chat. I loved the characters, even though we don't get a lot of time with them. They really grew on me very quickly. When Gary was first like introduced in the story, and I was like, oh god, I don't know about this kid. But then by the end of the game, I had ended up liking them so much that I was actually really disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to save them. So that was cool. I love the crayon section in the late game there, where you're going into kind of Mary's world. I thought that was super awesome. Like, there's so many great things about this game, and I'm so glad I had a chance to play it. As far as downsides that pull it down a little bit, one, it is very, very short, and I do tend to like shorter games because I just don't have a lot of time, and we get situations like with Dark Cloud 2 where they just go on forever, but I do wish that this one had maybe like even just one more hour to let the story and characters breathe a little bit more. I don't really hold it against GotY because, again, this was a one-person show, and it's amazingly impressive what they were able to do in this game just on their own, but just a little bit more time would have been really nice. The other part that brought it down just a touch for me was the amount of reading in the first half. I don't know why it would be that in-game text is so much harder on my throat than like just talking all the time as a streamer and reading chat as a streamer, but it does tend to be. It's not as bad as Control, where it was just like so much reading all the time, pages and pages of reading. It wasn't that bad because it was only 1.5 sessions long, but yeah, it was pretty rough on me. But, you know, a small point, a really minor point. I love the game, and I do highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't had a chance to play it yet. But I think that does it for us here in the good games, and let's go to the Garden of Greatness, the Green Garden of Greatness. Alright, that's a bit of a rough way to travel, but here we are in the Garden of Green Greatness, and we've got some great games to show you here. Getting started off, we've got Little Nightmares 2 by Tarsier and published by Bamco with the release of February 2021. And I loved Little Nightmares 2. It hit so many of my buttons. I love the environment and the presentation of it, that kind of like urban decay, urban fantasy, twisted up and stretched out like taffy. All like the heavy blue usage in the external sections were great. I love the character designs, the empty-headed children in the school. The bit after, like the cafeteria and the hallway after that were one of the few times I could think of in modern games that I felt actually unnerved to play. The melty-faced people in the television section as well are super cool. Mono is not as great a character as Six is, but Six does come back, and I did appreciate her inclusion in the game. I love the fact that Tarsier doesn't like shove lore down your throat where you've got to read every little bit of text and you know, everything is explained. It's very much there for your interpretation, and I appreciate the fact that they trusted the players enough to let them engage with it, you know, on their own. Little Nightmares 2 is so much fun. I loved it so much that I ended up playing it after we finished streaming it, I played it on my side account, platinumed it there, came back to my main account, played it through from the beginning, and platinumed it there too. It's just a great game. Moving over to our second, and we've got Unsighted from the lovely, the lovely translasses of Studio Pixel Punk down in Brazil. It was published by Humble Games and released March of 2021 on the PlayStation 4. And Unsighted is a really interesting emotional pairing with that other sci-fi space lesbian game, Signalis, but whereas Signalis' emotional tone, it's very dark, it's very oppressive, it's very grinding. Your best hope in that situation is like find your lover and kill her. Unsighted is going in the completely opposite direction, where it's like, yes, the world is dark, yes, stakes are high and the odds are against you, the people that you love are in danger and are, you know, dying, but you're gonna strap on your boots, you're gonna fight back, you're gonna save the girl, you're gonna get on your bitch-ass bike, and you're gonna go to other places and save people there as well. And speaking as a trans lesbian in a world right now that just does not appreciate trans women, lesbians, queer folks, anybody, like, that energy meant a lot to me. And I really appreciated having something that was that aggressively positive as an experience to share with my own community. The game itself as well is a lot of fun. I loved the combat in it. It was intricate enough where I felt like it supported different play styles, but at the same time it wasn't so deep that I couldn't really grapple with it and make it my own. I love the fact that it's set up almost from the jump for speedrunning and sequence breaking, where if you know your recipes from a previous playthrough, or if you've gone on Reddit, you can just go wherever you want on the map. You can do whatever order that you want. It's fully supported in that. The pixel art style is beautiful. The character portraits, maybe not quite so much, but there are little animated cutscenes throughout, like when the bosses are introduced, that just look absolutely fantastic, and the whole world itself looks really good. I didn't manage to platinum this one. There's a particularly hard boss, the Crababulator Rex, the king of all evil Crababulators, that I just couldn't quite get past, but I did play it through multiple times on my side account to completion, and I played it through multiple times on my main account to completion. I really love Unsighted an awful lot. Now, wrapping things up, and it might be a little bit of a surprise, it was in fact a surprise to me, but we've got Tunic. This was devved by Isometric Corps Games, directed by Andrew Schultes, and published by Finji, with a PlayStation 4 release of September 2022. And I say that it was a surprise to me because, honestly, like, right up to the very end, I thought that this was going to be my game of the year. It spoke to me so much. I love it as a piece of art. I love it as a game. It is gorgeous. The environment is so beautiful. The character designs are so beautiful. The lighting, it's something I keep on coming back to, even though it feels like a minor point, but the lighting is absolutely stunning. When you're in the forest sections and the light is kind of filtering through the trees, or you're in the library and the light is, like, the sundown is coming through the windows, and it looks great. There are these really nice set pieces throughout the game. The combat is really fun. It's a lot tougher than the kind of softer image of the character design would make you think, and at times it is a little bit unbalanced, and I did very much appreciate the inclusion of a no-fail assist mode, because there's a bit in the second half of the game where you've got to go through this, like, cathedral section, and you've got to go through this gauntlet at the end of it to unlock a special ability that it feels like it's scaled towards stats that you don't have at that time, and it was just wiping the floor with me. Now, that did not stop it from being the game of the year in my book, but it is something that I do think needs to be noted. That section could be balanced a little bit better, but overall, like, everything but that, I found the combat in the later game, like, to be quite challenging but very rewarding when I pulled it off, like against the scavenger boss. I love the way that the game manual is incorporated into the game itself, the way that the book, both you're finding pages, but those pages are, like, written on as you're going through. That's super cool. I love the fact that Schultes mentions that this was kind of reflective of his experience of being a kid and playing games with manuals that were a little bit above his reading ability and that he lacked context for, and so kind of building out the idea of what's going on in his head. And that's an experience that really resonated with me as somebody who's living outside of her home country and dealing with a language that is not her mother tongue. And my experience, particularly at the beginning of getting to Japan with gaming, was very much like that, where I couldn't interact with the games on a linguistic level because I just didn't understand Japanese well enough. And so it was a lot of like, what do I think this means? And I know these words, but I don't know these words. And like, Tunic really sells that really well. The puzzles are tough, they're tricky, but everything that you need is included in the game. And even I found like the Reddit community was very encouraging in keeping that mystery of the puzzles, where a lot of the times when somebody would have a question about like a section that they were stuck with, the answers would be broken down where like a very, very general, just a hint answer at the top, and then kind of going down to a spoilered answer which would actually give it to you. And I thought like that was cool that the community was supportive of what the game was trying to do. Tunic is so good. I platinumed it up both the side account and the main account, and I want to play it through again and probably again, but I want to give it a little bit of a gap so I can forget things a little bit so it feels fresh once more. But I loved it, but it didn't quite make it to be the game of the year. And what game did? Well, let's head over to heaven and find out. Alright, so here we are in the heaven, and it's time for the big enchilada, the whole deal, the big show. It's we gotta get this trophy out of the way. What's the #1 game for our Empty Room 2024 streams? It is, in fact, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Once again brought to us by Konami Entertainment and helmed by everyone's favorite woman aficionado, Hideo Kojima. And I was honestly surprised by this one. As I said in the previous, I really thought that Tunic was going to be the top for us because it just was so much for me. It was such a great game. But when I sat back and I thought about these tiers and I thought about how I wanted to judge the games, and I had to really recognize the fact that I don't think that I've ever had more fun playing a game on stream, certainly not within recent memory, as I did with Metal Gear Solid 3. There was not a single stream that went by that didn't have at least one laugh out loud, oh my god, are you fuckers seeing this shit on the screen right now moment that we did here. It was amazing from the very beginning. Once I figured out that, like, if you're not really good at melee and you're not doing well at combat, well, you can just sonic roll into the guards to knock them down, and that is a perfectly viable technique, even though it is goofy as hell for what they're trying to do in the game. And it was like all bets were off by that point. And I found the game, like, mechanically closest to modern action games where I was not struggling at all against the systems throughout the play. I just felt like I could get right into it and get to it. I finally got pretty decent at melee. I never really got decent at aiming, and that was an issue during the fear fight because, like, you know, you gotta aim at that dude. But one of the things that I really loved about this game was that fight had multiple ways to get through it. We ended up feeding poisoned and dynamited booby-trapped food to the fear and, like, getting rid of most of his health and then gunning him down from there. But, like, all of the situations in the game do have these multiple ways to engage with them, and they are, like, they all feel viable, and I super appreciated that. I had a great time, like, just playing it. Even the introduction of, like, the eating and healing systems that you had to do, and when they were first introduced, I was like, oh, these are going to slow things down, or these are going to be really intrusive. And it turned out that, one, they didn't slow anything down, and particularly, like, the healing system that they had, I actually had a really good time with that. And the only time that it ever got to be like, oh, this is getting to be a little bit too much, is during the end fight, because I kept on having to pull those fucking tranquilizer darts out of me because I didn't know what I was doing that fight. Another fight where there are multiple ways to get through it, my method was not a sniper duel, but, like, running around Benny Hill style, bumping into the fucker and then filling his face with lead shot, and that was perfectly perfectly viable. There is so much in this game that is just like, it strikes for this particular tone, this geopolitical spy thriller type of thing that you got going on, but that is also just goofy as shit, and I love the living fuck out of it. Like, you had the pain, and this motherfucker is made out of goddamn bees! He's shooting bees at you, and that shouldn't work. That should be over the top goofy, and you should be like, oh, well, fuck that, that's goofy. But it wasn't. It was fun. It was super fun. The Fury, he's this cosmonaut who went out into space and was infected with space nihilism and now wants to burn the world. And when you kill him, he turns into, like, double fire ghosts and attacks the screen, and I was laughing out loud so fucking much. I loved it. Like, the dude, the scientist, not the Russian scientist, not the one who pisses himself. Kojima's got this thing about people pissing themselves, and I still don't get it. But the other one, you know, the drunk, legs! That whole sequence, the whole thing about the legs, and I could not stop laughing. It was so fucking great. It was so fucking goofy, and there are like so many points like that throughout the game that I was just having a blast. I was having so much fun playing, and I was having so much fun presenting this game to people. Revolver Ocelot, young form, fuckboy catboy, meow. Like, what was that shit? But I loved it. I ate it up. It was amazing. It was, I'm very on and off about Kojima because I do feel like Kojima's kind of like reputation and the mythos of Kojima, the mythology of Kojima has as far outclips like his actual output and frankly himself as a man. But it does feel like he's just firing on all cylinders in this game, and I had a wonderful time. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just like, words are flying out of my mouth, but it was just that fun. It was just that good. Now, there are absolutely points that I was not super thrilled with. I never really got, like, I got what was going on with Ava, and I dig that, like, you know, she's a spy, and Snake is a neophyte, he's a neophyte action hero, and he's supposed to be thinking with his cock, and so she's got her tits out all the time, but she's also like a badass, and she's beating people up with a motorcycle, and it's like, Kojima's kind of like doing the thing, like making an excuse within the story for her to be the way that she is, but also there's like a certain point where the gratuitousness just kind of gets a little bit gross, and you're thinking like, girl, you're gonna have bugs splattered all over your fucking tits if you're riding around the motorcycle like that, and it's just like, could you not though? Could you not? Maybe? Volgin as well, like, I liked Volgin as a villain because he's such a hateable, like, goofy villain, but at the same time he's like this really weird view of like a disaster bisexual where he's grabbing people by the junk, but he's also like a torture hound, and also Proto Raiden, who's another disaster bisexual, and that's our queer rep in the game. And you know, he's well known for like just torturing people, and people let him do what he wants to do because he'll just fucking beat you up, and it's like, why is that our queer rep? Kojima, could you be normal about women and queer people? I say, and I believe, and then we get to like the boss fight, you know, the boss fight, the boss fight, and it's fucking amazing, even though she's got to get her tits out too, because it's Kojima. But like, it was such a tense, enjoyable fight. This is the first time I think in any video game where I've had like a sniper build, not a build, but like trying to do it sniper style, and it actually worked for me, and it made it even more tense because the field is really, really small. You're hiding, you've got like the white camo on, and you blend in with the flowers, and you're like, I hope she doesn't notice me, and you plug her in the head, and it's like, holy fuck, it was so fucking cool, and there's so many fucking cool moments about this game that I just, even though I think that like Tunic maybe as art is a better piece of art, but this as a game was so much more fun, and it is definitely deserving of our trophy Game of the Year for the Empty Room Streaming 2024. I had so much fun, and I hope that y'all did as well, and I think that handles it for our tiers. I think we had a really good year, honestly. We only had 2 games that were way down in the disappointment realm, and they were not even, strictly speaking, bad games. They were just disappointing with Skul and Dark Cloud 2. We had the 1 game in orange, that was Metal Gear Solid 1, and even that was a good one. We had 2 games in yellow with Metal Gear Solid 2 and Eve. 3 games in green, and green is really, really great for me. I've never done like a top of the tops, so green is normally the tops for me. But with Unsighted, Tunic, and Little Nightmares 2, and then Metal Gear Solid 3 to wrap up the year, and like this was a really fun time with the empty room, and it made 2024 a lot easier to get through because without y'all, it would have been tough. I know I've mentioned the name change and that had being a very massive and important and positive point in my life for 2024, but the rest of it was really, really hard. But the folks at the empty room made it bearable, and it made me want to keep doing this and keep bringing things out for people because I just love hanging out with all of y'all. So I want to thank you so much. I want to give a special thanks to my mods, Hive and Kronos, who help keep this space to be as safe and friendly as it is. I also want to give a special shout out to Supum for so much technical support that this video and none of the art that I've been doing this past year would have been possible without Supum. So thank you so much, Supum. But to all of you, thank all of you. You have made my 2024 something that was, in the main, pretty happy and pretty good, even during the really shitty times. But my mouth is just running, and I do need to go, so I think that does it for us here, this Go About. So, from me, Disco, here in Tokyo, to all of you, wherever you may happen to be, thank you, arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.